Hey everybody, welcome to Help Me Work Online, Esther. Super duper excited to have my friend and awesome buddy from a business club mastermind group that I'm in, Sean Delany. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
And I'm pumped because you're like the most official fancy person I think I've ever had on the show because you're a lawyer. Woo!
Oh my God. Oh my gosh. I don't usually lead with that because I want people to come to hate me over time, not right off the bat.
You
Nobody
didn't tell any of us in the mastermind. You're like, also I'm a lawyer, like super duper secretly.
Also this. Don't judge. Don't judge.
So today we're going to be talking about a lot of the questions that we get from, this is more focused for Americans in this episode. A lot of the questions that we get about getting people set up as independent contractors. And in particular, I'm going to talk about what Californians, there's been a lot of law changes, and it's kind of this like organic living thing that kind of keeps changing even as time is moving ahead. So we're going to talk a little bit about laws for independent contractors in the States and particularly in California as well with recent law changes. And Sean, tell us a little bit about your background coming into this.
So yes, I am a lawyer, but I have almost, I don't want to date myself, over 20 years working in the Fortune 50 space. Left a job at MetLife and went into the consulting space. I've had consultants like Nike, Uber, J&J, JP Morgan Chase. And I realized at some point that the business fundamentals that I was using to help those companies are still the same basic things that companies of any size would need. And so I created my own business framework that would help entrepreneurs implement those same best practices. So I've got clients from every size, from somebody who has 5 employees and a couple of taco trucks to J&J.
I think sometimes people get freaked out about, I know I did when I first had an issue with a client that didn't want to pay me or like something had come up and I needed to email a lawyer. And even you, I've emailed you for like some small one-off things too. I think it really freaks people out when you work in the independent contractor or online entrepreneur space. You're like, I gotta talk to a lawyer, but it's really not, it's just kind of part of the deal. And I actually think it's awesome because you can protect yourself more than if you're an employee and the company has all of the power.
It's part of the deal. And look, it's the same way that you should be contacting a CPA to handle your taxes. Like, do you really want to? Look, you could, if you have a medical problem, you could go on WebMD and try to piece together an answer for yourself. You really should go to a doctor because they went to school for a lot of years to give you a quick 2-minute answer to your question as opposed to 12 hours researching it on yourself and still not even understanding if you've got the right answer. Same thing with a CPA for taxes. Same thing for legal questions for a lawyer. Don't be afraid of them. Go to them. It's going to be money well spent. Bake it into your expenses.
Yeah. And I think, there's been lots of little small instances where I'm like, I think I need to ask a lawyer. And I was all freaked out. And then when I did it, my anxiety just was so much better because usually answer is actually quite simple and we've complicated it more. And so lawyers are like, that's what you guys are trained to need to see through it really easily and give us clear answers. So with that in mind, let's go through just some of the basic kind of startup questions for people that are new to the independent contractor, or I specialize with virtual assistants, but this is stuff's going to apply to anybody who's working like I'm a graphic designer and I have multiple people that I work for. So anything like that. So what are the basic requirements that somebody like a virtual assistant would need to set up their business or independent contractorness legally in the United States?
Okay, so here's the checklist. And by the way, let me just say this, everything that we talk about, I'll put into a document and send it to you, Esther, and then you can figure out a way to... Awesome,
we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, okay, great. So this is the way I sort of think about this. First, you have to decide which kind of business type is right for you. We'll get into that. You've got to decide where to form whatever that entity is. And by that, I mean, apply, put the paperwork in. Okay. You need to figure out, as based on that, if you need a registered agent. I'll talk about what that is. You need to get an employee ID number. So we'll talk about that. And then there's some other things like getting a mailing address, a bank account. We're not going to talk about EINs because you said this podcast is mostly for US, so that's fine. You need to understand your tax responsibilities, and and then we'll talk a little bit about complying with city or county requirements, because that's probably something that people are thinking about. So those are the major steps. So, we can get
setting
into
all of this up. I don't want to interrupt you, but one of the things that people are like, I have to get a EIN or a tax ID. I'm like, what do I do? And I'll kind of like, well, you do these few things. Now, is all of this stuff going to take somebody hours and hours to set up?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
No.
Especially if you go, no. And if you, and there are services out there that do it all for you. I mean, you can either go to something, a place like the company corporation, which that's all they do. You pick the state and they file for you, and then they send you a packet and you're done.
Yep.
Or you could go to a CPA. I mean, I think when I started my first business years ago, I just went to my accountant and said, I want to start this. I mean, I'm a lawyer, but I'm not going to handle this myself, because a lawyer who has himself as a client has a fool for a client, right? So you need to look outside your own purview and say, what do I not know? And so I worked with an accountant, and we filed everything and got all the paperwork done. So this isn't something.
And it wasn't super expensive. Like, somebody just helped me do that because my business type switch. I think it was like $200 for him to do all.
Oh yeah, it's a couple $100. And again, depending on the state, there's some variances there. But we're not talking about. It's not $1,500. I mean, right. It's less than $500. If somebody's charging you more than that, then look for someone else. I mean,
you could DIY if you wanted. Is the point. I did for the first years.
You could. You absolutely could. It's not time prohibitive. It depends on, do you want to spend $200 and have someone do it for you?
Exactly.
Or spend the hours. But it's not that bad.
Yeah. So feel empowered, everybody. If you're listening, you heard it from the lawyer's mouth. You can do this.
You can do this. You can do this.
That's another thing. We have like the sole proprietors, and we have the LLC, and then some people are like, should I become a corporation? Like, how can you help guide people to what is best for them? What should they be thinking about?
Okay, great question. And very important. So if you do nothing, the government will classify you as a sole proprietor. Now, what I always tell people is, if anything that the government defaults you to is probably not in your best interest. It is probably in the government's best interest. Okay. So we'll get back into that in a minute. But you're not, after this call, you are not going to be a sole proprietor. Okay. You are going to go do something about it. So, okay. So an LLC is one of the easiest and most simple things. And why do you want to form some kind of corporation and not be a sole proprietor? Here's why. There's something called the corporate veil. If you do not have some kind of corporate structure around you, and don't think I mean like, Exxon's corporate structure.
I mean like a piece of paperwork that you filed.
Right. Yeah. A piece of paperwork that says, This is the corporation. Yeah. Okay. So I don't do business as Sean Delany. I do business under What If LLC. Okay. And the reason I do that is because if I give out some bad advice, which never happens, but if someone accuses me of it and I get sued or something else happens that's bad, you cannot come after my house, my car, my savings. You can't come after any personal things of mine. Mm-hmm. You can only come after assets of the business. So you need to have corporate protection. Bottom line. So let's go from there then. An LLC is super easy. And one of the reasons why is because LLCs have what's called pass-through taxation. Okay? That means whatever your business earns, you don't have to file a separate tax for your business. So if Esther tomorrow started Esther Inman LLC and she earns $10,000, she does not pay any corporate taxes on those $10,000. She just takes that $10,000 and attributes it to her personal income taxes. So it's one filing instead of two. Okay. So you're saving an enormous amount of money there. And if you sue her for something, none of her personal liability is involved. It's only whatever's left in the business.
Got it.
Okay.
So when I first did it, I did sole prop for the first few years, I know, but it was because I didn't have any assets. I was like, I don't have a house, I don't even own my car, like I didn't have anything. So in my head, it didn't make sense for me, and I also just didn't understand why you would want to or need to be an LLC. So this is very, very helpful.
And still, even if you have no assets, and you say, well, who cares? It still just is better to have a corporation making a contract with another corporation.
Okay.
So it gives some more legitimacy there rather than you're just a person on the street hoping somebody's going to pay you for some money. You should have right? It should be a legal entity making a legal contract with another legal entity.
I love that. I didn't even think about that.
Okay. So then, so corporations, when people say, well, should I have a corporation instead of an LLC? That's good if you're going to have investors and shares, but there's so many additional fees and layers of management. Unless you're making over $100,000, you should not be worried about that.
Yep.
LLC is the way to go.
I didn't switch from LLC to S Corp until just now, and I've been in business for almost 7 years. So it financially didn't make sense until we were making a certain amount of money. So that sounds exactly aligned with what my CPA said.
Great. And so let's talk about S Corp. So an S Corp, right, is an eligible domestic corporation. So non-U.S. citizens can't do it, but that's okay. But it avoids double taxation, which means you act like a corporation. You're taxed under those rates, but you don't get double taxed. You see, because for a corporation, if Esther formed a corporation and made $1 million, the corporation first has to pay taxes. Then she'd get paid. Then she would pay taxes on that. My salary. Oh, they stick it to you when they can, don't they? Right? Now, as an S corporation, you don't get double taxed.
Right.
But you're on it. So that's for people who are making over $80,000 to $100,000 a year. Now, here's the beautiful thing. If you file as an LLC and your business grows, you can then just tell your tax professional, I would like to elect to be taxed as an S corporation.
Yep.
So
you can actually do it. Can't you do it retroactively too? Like
you can.
It's so cool.
You can. So for most of the people listening to this, LLC is the way to go. You can apply, then ask the government to tax you as an S corp if you make over a certain amount that says, and your CPA is going to tell you, hey, look, I'm looking at your finances. You'd be better off. You'd pay less in taxes if you were taxed this year as an S corp than an LLC, and let them handle that. That's why you're paying them. Again, $200 to save you $5,000. Please do it. Talk to a tax professional. I'm not a tax professional.
Oh man, tax professionals are the best.
That's what
they like pay their own rates. They save me so much money because they know all the tax laws that I don't know. And I always tell them like, man, you guys like paid your own fees and some, because it's like money back in your pocket.
They pay for themselves. And so what you need to know is LLC first.
Okay.
Probably for 98% of the people listening right now.
Okay.
Form an LLC. Worry about the S corp later. It's a good problem to have because now you're like, oh, I'm making $120,000 a year. I have such problems. That's okay. Then you pay a tax professional to help you decide whether it's time to be taxed as an S corp or not. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think we could just, I don't know that we have to hammer that any more than that, but.
Okay. Well, so then when you say like, let's expand on it a little bit, like registering the business. What does that mean? Like, do we go to sign up for an LLC.com or do you go to your state site? Like, what do they need to register the business in all states or in some states? Like, how does that part work?
Yeah. So, simple answer is, as long as you're incorporating in the state that you reside and do most of your business, you don't have to worry about registration. You're already a legal entity. And by the way, I would avoid, unless you're a non-U.S. citizen, which we're not talking to here, where they can pick and choose and say, okay, Wyoming's the best, which it is for non-residents.
But I wasn't living here. Yeah.
Right. Then that's perfect. Then that's a perfect state to go because they have very favorable laws and tax rates and all that kind of stuff. Perfect. But for U.S. citizens, incorporate in the state in which you do most of your business.
Yeah.
Now, state by state, you might have to register as a foreign entity. But if you're using a registration service or an incorporation service, like let's say you live in Delaware and you go with incorporation.com, right? And they will register you in Delaware. Great. I live in Delaware. I do most of my business in Delaware. I'm registered here. Oh no, I have 5 clients in California. They will know, or your accountant will know, that they need to help you file some paperwork in order to register in California.
Okay.
I would not try to parse that out and worry about every single state, because every single state's laws are different.
Okay.
And I would extrapolate this to say the same thing about registering or getting licenses in cities. I can't give you specific advice because every single city has different requirements.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I can't just tell you here's the answer, other than you just need to look into whatever city licensing requirements you have. Now,
and this is all public information that's very easily Googleable for depending on where you live.
Totally easy. And by the way, these entities want you to be able to find this information and want to make it easy, because if you have to, trust me, any entity that's set up to take a fee from you.
That's a good point.
I mean, if you say, I want to get a cat, but do I need to pay $30 to get a license for my cat? Trust me, your local municipality wants you to know that you should come and pay them $30. Okay,
that's a really good point.
They're going to make it.
Google.
Yes, they're going to make it really easy. You could call, the housing department, and they're going to quickly transfer you to the pet licensing department because they want the revenue. So this is not hard, guys. Like, this is so easy. Please, the government is set up to take your money. But it is
a good point, and it's so true.
Okay, so very easy. So, but again, usually licensing and registration is for, the trade professions. You have to be a licensed plumber. You have to be a licensed painter.
Yep.
As a VA, probably the other person on the other end of the line when you call them is going to go, I don't know what that is. Don't worry about it. Okay. Yeah. So,
that's for the most part what I've found too. But again, like he's saying, you really should look it up for your particular city and state.
Look it up. It's going to be a 10-minute thing, and you're going to be fine.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what if the virtual assistant wants to do like for me, my LLC is called Online Course Queen LLC, but I have different brands underneath my thing, like 90-Day VA, Virtual Assistant Internship. Same thing for the VA. Let's say they name it like Pretty Flowers LLC, but they're doing, virtual assistant is underneath their name. How does that work? Do they need to register something special for their trade name, or is there anything they have to do differently?
Yeah, so it's a simple file to have a DBA, or which is a doing business as. So at one point I had a separate name. It was a company that was, I wanted to have some brand differentiation in what I was doing. And so I just called my accountant and said, because I worked so closely with him, and said, I need a DBA for Rickstar Consulting underneath What If. And he filed it, and it probably took him 30 minutes, and I paid him $50 and I was done. I mean, so
you can have the LLC, Online Course Queen in my example, and then you can have like Esther Inman Virtual Services. That's the DBA doing business as. Then I can have Virtual Assistant Internship doing business as. It's all kind of under that umbrella of the LLC that I made. Yes,
and so you have your one corporate veil, and then you're doing business as these other entities, which protects your name and makes sure that everyone knows it's yours, but you're only filing as one business. You're only paying taxes as one business. All the parent company. So
and the worst comes to worst is if you found that like, oh my gosh, I have 5 clients in Idaho. I probably need to get some kind of tax entity set up in Idaho, even though I don't live there. Possibly could come up for some people.
I mean, it could, but I think as long as so let's say you're in Colorado and you get 5 clients in Idaho, as long as Idaho knows you're doing business there, you're paying your federal taxes.
Yeah.
You've paid a licensing fee, maybe if they require it in Idaho. I think you're fine. But again, you'd want to look into Idaho's specific laws, but for the most part, I want to convey to people that this is not hard and complex, because a lot of times people freak out when they say.
Everybody in my program freaks out.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, good. So everybody hear this. Right? I don't want anyone thinking, oh no, I'm trying to work across the entire country and I'm going to have to file 50 different things and keep track of all this stuff.
No.
You hire a professional. We're talking 10 minutes of work for each one. If that, we're not talking a major hurdle. Okay.
And even like me, I hire international people. I think I have one US person who works for me and the rest of my team is all around the world. And it's like one form they fill out and it's like so easy. So don't freak out, guys.
Yeah, no. Oh my gosh. Don't freak out. And again, I'm sorry I'm not giving you more specifics so they don't freak out, but we don't have the time.
Every state and city is different. It's impossible. And I'm glad to hear you say it, because people will keep peppering me with questions. And I'm like, I don't even know where you live. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And even if I did, I can't be an expert on every single state and city in the country, right? And in the world.
Yeah. So guys, hear this. Even when Esther asked me a question once, what did I lead with? I said, well, I'm not a lawyer in Bali. Right? Like, yes. But I will tell you this. And then, there's good advice then on what people can do for themselves. And so that's that message to everyone here is again, remember, the governments want to make it easy for you to comply with whatever filings and fees they want. No one's looking to stick it to you as long as you're making a good faith effort. I've also found that people that have tried things didn't do the right thing, and then somehow they get found out. The government is not looking to shut down small business. The small business is the engine for everything that happens in this country. They want you to succeed. So, for example, when you have an LLC, I'm going off the rails a little here, but I want your people to hear this. When you have an LLC, one of the reasons why people pick an S corp over an LLC is because an LLC, you have to zero out your account at the end of the year. Okay, so if you make $100,000, you need to take all of that out. Why? Because you're going to get taxed on it as if you took it out all anyway. And why do they do that? Because the government says, we don't want you to leave a whole bunch of money in there and then not be able to have a living wage or pay for things around your house or take care of your family. Take the money, because a lot of entrepreneurs will go, well, I'm building something. I need the money in there. I'm afraid to take it out. So the government says, we acknowledge that. Stop it. Take it out, because we're going to tax you as if you did anyway.
I never looked at it like that.
Yeah. Now an S corp says you have to declare what your living wage is, your reasonable wage, and then we'll let you leave the rest in. Okay. So if you made $100,000, you could pay yourself 50, leave 50 in for growth, but they'll tax one as your personal rate and one on a corporate rate.
Yeah.
So that's why it has to be, a certain amount to make it worthwhile to do that. Otherwise, it's better to take it all out personally. But the point I'm trying to make is, there's another example of a law that is written in order to force you to be good to yourself and be and succeed as a business owner. They want you to succeed. So don't be afraid of the laws and regulations and hurdles you have to jump through. They're designed to help you. And the government and they get someone on the phone, they're more than willing to help you.
I was going to say too, something that just thought of me, how when you're going through this entrepreneur journey and the steps can be quite scary, but the pathway opens as you take those steps, right? Like the light shines. This is how I feel like it is with this stuff. Like, I didn't know what a sole proprietor was or an LLC until it came time for me to know that. And then I was able to figure it out and take that step. I didn't know what an S corp was until this year. I didn't need to hire a CPA until I was making a certain amount of money. So each of those little steps, they open up as you get there. So if you're listening and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to open an S corp when I get $100,000, and what am I going to do for this? And what about this state? Like, those things will open and the pathway will be lit for you. I mean, you have to do some research, you might have to figure it out, but as you go along, you don't have to get to the finish line right now. It's not, you're not even there.
I have a very anxious family around me, and what I always say to them in my personal life is, when everyone's anxiety's on at a 10, I say remember, we cross no bridges till we come to them.
Yes.
If you're not there, you're not there.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. You're making decisions, that you don't have to make. Worry about the thing that is in front of you. You don't have to see the entire road. You just have to see as far as your headlights will shine in the dark.
Yes.
And that's it. That's
Some
it.
people don't even want to start the virtual assistant or the online contractor thing. They only want to be an employee because they're so freaked out about the taxes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know how much money you're going to make.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
not being an employee. Like, you have no idea. So stop being freaked out and just start to take the baby steps, and that light will shine upon you. The bridge will show up for you, like you said, when you get there.
Yes. So I want to go back to one thing.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that we covered it, and I want to hammer this home because I want people to take this step if they're hesitant.
Okay.
Another reason why you need to be an LLC instead of just a sole proprietor. As an LLC, you will automatically be issued an employee identification number.
I was going to ask you about this.
Okay, great. Perfect. Okay. Great minds think alike. Lunatics also think alike, which is why we can study them. But also,
let's go with the first option.
Yeah, let's go with the first one. So an EIN allows you to do a bunch of things. Think of that as like your social security number for your business. An EIN will allow you to open a bank account, apply for business permits and licenses, hire employees, file taxes, all the kinds of things that you might want to do. You need that EIN. If you don't have that, again, if you're sued, everything falls to you. So an EIN is crucial for everything you're going to do with your business going forward. And that only comes if you've picked some kind of corporate
entity,
box
like an LLC.
Put yourself into, right? So whether it's an LLC or an S corp or anything else, that's how you get your EIN, and that EIN goes on applications for credit cards, for bank accounts, everything that you want to set up. Because again, you have to have a separate bank account for your business.
But why?
And I'll tell you why do I have to do that. Because if you commingle funds, personal funds, with business funds, then the government or someone who sues you can do what's called pierce the corporate veil and say, you're not really acting like a corporation, you're acting like a sole proprietor, and now I can sue you and I can get your house and your car and everything else.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. I didn't do that until like 2 or 3 years ago. So
oh my gosh.
Listen to Sean.
Bullet dodged. Okay, so you need to. So for example, I have a personal account, I have a business account. The two never mix. I do not use my company's credit card or debit card for personal expenses, and I do not use my personal credit card or account for business expenses. Do not do that. Once you start to do that, and trust me, there are plenty of companies out there that do it, but once you get caught doing that, the entities that be, the powers that be, can say, you're not really acting like a corporation. You're acting like somebody who's just dipping into the till, and now
it's like a
everything's
hobby
up for grabs.
Kind of thing. Yeah. So just to make this easy for everybody to understand, let's say that you have a business that's paying you as a virtual assistant $500 a month, and you have another business that's paying you $200 a month, and it goes into the checking account that you set up that's separate from your personal one, and so you get $700 into that, and then you listen to us, and so you're keeping 20% in there for when you have to pay taxes. So you just leave that in there, and then the rest of it you just transfer into a personal account, and then you just can run it like normal. I literally do that every month. Twice a month, I pay myself from one account and I just transfer it into my personal account. And that's
the way to do it. That's the way to do it.
So don't complicate and be like, oh God. And you don't even have to set up. I mean, well, this is a good question. Does it need to be an official business account with the bank, or can it just be a separate checking account?
No, it should be a business account under that name.
Okay. Good to know. Okay. So let's
and linked to that EIN.
Oh, okay. Cool.
That makes it all neat, clean. You'll still have access to it. I mean, for example, my business account, I'm the only one that has access to it. But it's not personal because the name on it is What If, and the access person is me, and it's filed under the EIN. So I'm not hiding anything. It all goes in there. But every month I take money out, as you said, I leave some in. The only time I have to worry about zeroing it out at the end of the year is at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And then I pay taxes on it from myself personally. And I know that I'm going to have to pay, and see, I don't have to pay corporate taxes then the next year because it's an LLC. I already paid the taxes personally.
Okay.
But if I wanted to leave money in there for expenses, which I pay before the end of the year. So in December, I pay for all kinds of stuff. I go, what can I pay now?
Yeah.
Because all that money comes out.
Yep.
Because I don't want to have money in January. So all the money comes out in December, pay for everything. If I haven't done it earlier in the year, take out the rest. Personally, I'm going to be paying taxes on that in April. And then the account just gets replenished in January as my business.
So you take out the money at the end of the year, you're not paying taxes on it?
I take it out in December.
Yeah.
And then I pay taxes on it in April.
Okay, got it.
And I mean, I'm taking it out all year.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the year, I say, what did I leave in there? Or what's still in there? Okay, well, I'm going to pay all my expenses. And now let's say, we'll just make up a number. There's 20 grand left in there. That I take out as sort of a hooray Christmas bonus, but I'm paying taxes on that in April. So I got a nice window now.
Yes.
I have all that money.
Refill that back up.
And I know what my tax rate's going to be. So that 20 grand that I take out at the end, plus everything I took out for the year, I go, all right, this is my entire year. This is what I'm going to need for taxes. I leave that in my personal account because that's how I'm getting taxed. And then the business account just gets replenished as it normally would be as clients come in.
Okay. I get it. Interesting. I didn't know any of this. This is so helpful. And that just goes to show you, I've been doing this for a very long time, not as long as you, but for a while. And I'm still learning stuff. I'm still learning things all the time. And that's okay. And that's part of growing. I'm not like going to jail because I didn't fill this one form out. I didn't have the separate account until now. It's going to be okay. So let's transition a little bit now and focus just on the Californians, because I know we have a lot of Californians that have seen the laws go through that were meant to protect people. Working for Uber was the thing that really ticked it off. And they were like, we want to be employees because of whatever their reasons were. And now I have a lot of people that want to be virtual assistants, or they're trying to apply for jobs. And they're like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do this because I'm from California. So what kind of impact has the AB5 law had on freelancers in California? Like, who needs to be worried? Who doesn't need to be worried? What do they need to keep in mind?
Okay, so the bill requires employers to use an ABC test, right? So the people hiring your VAs are the ones who need to worry, not the VAs themselves.
Okay.
So if you're a VA listening to this, you don't have to worry. This law was designed to hit the people who might be hiring you and other people. So a 20-person firm that wants to hire a VA, they're the ones who have to worry about this. And those employers have to apply what's called the ABC test to determine whether you as a VA is an employee or not, or a contractor. And the ABC test is the person in question performs their work duties under a company's control, meaning they tell you how to do it, how to dress, when to show up, when to go home, okay?
Even if it's remote, they're still going to be like, okay, 9 to 5, you're working.
Right.
Yep.
B, the work they do is integral to the company's business. So we do pest exterminations, and we're hiring you as an independent contractor to go out and do pest exterminations. Or where Uber got in trouble, we're a ride-sharing company, and we're asking you to go out and do ride-sharing, okay? We'll get into why this doesn't apply to most of your people in a minute, Esther.
Yeah.
All right. C in the ABC is the workers don't have an independent enterprise in their trade, meaning I'm a plumber and Exxon, maybe that's too big of a company, but Barry's appliance store has hired me to come in and do all their plumbing issues when they have plumbing issues. Okay, I have an independent license. I have an independent trade. I do plumbing for more than one person. Just because Barry's uses me exclusively doesn't mean I work for Barry's. Mm-hmm. I have a business. So again, when I said to everybody here, you need to get a corporate vehicle, whether it's an LLC or an S-Corp, that's one of the hurdles. I have my own business. Yeah. I don't work for Barry's. I'm Joe Plumber.
So for Californians especially, that could be really important to help you, be like, I'm Barry the plumber, or I'm Esther the VA, or the graphic designer, or whatever. I have lots of people I do stuff for.
Massively. So that's a huge thing. So one, even if they say, well, we'd like you to show up here, there, that's fine. But you could say, however, I have more than one client. I'm not there 24/7.
Yep.
I do stuff all over the place. I'm not their employee. B, the work you do is not going to be integral to their company. Might be incredibly important, but unless they are a person who says, I own a VA shop, come be a VA for us, and they're farming your work out to someone else, that is not integral to their company. Okay? You are doing a service for them, but they produce widgets. Unless you're showing up on their assembly line producing widgets, you are not doing something that is integral to the company's business.
Yep.
Right? They have to be, think of it this way, integral to the business, I would say. So like an admin is integral. Like you can't, like a big enough company can't work without them. But they're not making money off of having an admin. They're not selling that service.
Yeah.
A widget production company makes money off of producing widgets. So people producing widgets is integral to their company. But the admin who answers the phone is not.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good way to look at it.
And then the next thing is the workers don't have an independent enterprise. So again, if you're filing an LLC or an S Corp and have your own business, have your own name, and you do work, even if you only have one client, you say, but this is my own business. Okay. So you're not then impacted by this. And again, even if you were, you wouldn't have to do anything. The company hiring you would. So it's good to be educated on this, just in case you come across someone who says, well, I'm hesitant to hire you because I'm afraid of the laws in my state. You can
Which is happening a lot to people. Yeah. Like they'll just see on the job, oh, we're not accepting Californians because it's a small business and they just like can't wrap their brains around the California contractor thing. And so they're just like, don't apply. And it's frustrating for people. So you might have to do some education.
So in the document that I send to you after this, Esther,
sure.
I'll craft it so that it's language that they can cut and paste and send to people.
Ooh,
that says, you like that?
Awesome. Yeah.
Like that? I just came up with that right now.
Love it.
I'll grab something that they can just cut and paste and say exactly what we just said in a more pithy way that says, this doesn't apply to you, and or to me, you can hire me without worrying about this.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super helpful for everybody. And so the only time if you're like a virtual contractor, meaning you're a graphic designer, you're a virtual assistant, you're a video editor, whatever, the only time where you may need to be concerned is if it's like a video editing agency that is hiring you for like 20 hours a week between these hours as a video editor. And they're like, your service is integral to that business offering their service, right? That's no longer allowed in California is essentially what this is saying.
Right.
So unfortunately, they're trying to get this law changed, I know, but it may mean that some companies are no longer going to be in California anymore. Like they're talking about like getting out, and it's going to impact the economy in California. But you guys as freelancers and as service providers online doing all kinds of stuff don't really need to worry because there are 49 other states of people that can hire you.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, last question. What is the best way, we get this occasionally, not as much since I've helped people prevent this from happening, but what is the best way for somebody working online when they don't get paid for work that was already done? Yeah.
Okay. So this is this is an interesting question.
Let's end on this high note.
Yeah, let's end on this downer. This should have been the first question. All right. So I would say this. If you, I follow the idea. I hate to say it, but I follow it because it's so true. This idea, this concept of the law, right? The economics of law, which is, you could sue anybody for anything.
Yep.
But unless the economics are going to work in your favor, you're probably not going to. Okay, you could be right in a car accident. You didn't cause it, but you got the ticket anyway, and your insurance company says, "Oh, we're not going to fight it." And you might be, if you're someone like me, you rage against the universe, saying, "But that's not right. You shouldn't just cut a check." And they go, "Well, no, but if we go to court, it's going to cost $5,000, and if we just cut them a check, it's going to be $2,500. Done. It's done." And you might say, well, it's terrible and unjust. Sure. So, sorry, excuse me. You could be somebody who's totally right. You did a lot of work, but you have no contract. And they say, well, sue me for it. They only owe you $500. It's going to cost you $400 for an attorney, $200 to file the claim. You're already out of pocket more than you're going to get back. Not a lot you can do, especially if you have not incorporated and did not have some kind of contract. If you are incorporated, have a professional services contract, did the work.
Which we have in 90 AVA BTW.
BTW. Okay, great. If you've done that, if you've listened to Esther, you've done things right, and then you can prove that you did the work and they are trying to gyp you, the first thing I would do is you get more flies with honey than vinegar, right? Try to send them a nice note saying, by the way, I did this work. I can prove I did it. I need the money.
Offer a payment plan is usually what I say too.
Offer a payment plan. That would be my second course. Third is a sternly written email that says, and document everything, sternly written email that says, look, this is what it is, and I don't want to go forward. Now, in your standard contracts, do you have something that says where claims will be handled, if it's going to arbitration versus court?
Yep, we highlight where they should put their state that they're doing business in case it needs to go to something.
Okay, great. Then I would recommend them to highlight that part and say, you signed this contract that I was going to do X amount of work, X number of hours for X amount of pay. We said this would go to arbitration or whatever in this state. I'm going to be filing that soon. And then when it comes down to it, if they're still saying no, then they've got to take that they have to do the economics then and say, it's going to cost me X versus Y. Does it make sense for me to do it or not? Some of them are going to be easy. Oh my gosh, I did $2,500 worth of work and small claims court is going to cost me $150. I'm totally going forward with that.
Yeah.
Then they do it. But if it's close and they got to make that decision, I've seen, if they know a lawyer and can CC someone, I can't tell you how many times friends will call me and say, can I just put on the bottom of my email, CC you? And I say, yes. Yeah. They send that and immediately the funds come over.
That's what I always say too. I was like, do everything you said first. And then at the last resort, just get a lawyer in there, have a lawyer even could draft something up for you. You can pay them to draft something up for you. And then you can kind of use this as a template and CC them.
Absolutely.
And it will move things so fast. Don't let that be your first thing though.
No.
You're going to catch more flies with honey. So offer the payment plan, be really nice. Mention hey, we did have a contract. And then as a last resort, you can do that and you'll see movement on it. And I always like to say too, you can prevent this from happening by getting deposits, getting paid at certain key points in the project so that you're not waiting for 100% of payment at the end of X amount of work. Because if you don't know the person, then you don't have trust either of you. So set yourself up for success from the beginning to avoid those kinds of issues.
Oh, absolutely. That's great advice. You should not be waiting till the end for some balloon payment that may never come. Mm-hmm. First establish that order of trust, get things in increments. And also, and to your point, you don't necessarily have to file something to threaten somebody with a lawsuit. If you've done the honey first and tried a bunch of things, and then you're just CCing a lawyer, that's not going to cost you anything because unless I'm actually physically involved, I don't care. CC me, send it to me. If I know that you're my client and you might use me going forward, not that that's the kind of law that I practice, but I'm just saying if I were, plenty of lawyers would say, sure, CC me. Because they know that it's just going to go away because someone sees that a lawyer's seeing it and they get scared and they know you're represented. But that's a nuclear weapon, and I would only use that if you're owed several thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Which, if you follow Esther's advice, you won't be owed that because you're getting paid in increments.
Yes, hopefully yes.
Listen to Esther.
That is always what everyone says to the students in the course, to new students, just listen to her, you guys. She knows what she's talking about.
Listen.
And I wanted to say too, and in this case, listen to Sean, he's a wise guy, is, this doesn't happen super often. It's not all the time people aren't getting paid. So don't listen to this and be like, oh gosh, this is so unsteady and unreliable. I should just be an employee. It's nah, because an employer can just fire you tomorrow. So there's no there's no guarantees in life. It's just something good to know because it may happen to you and you just want to be prepared and know that no contract is going to be very helpful unless it is enforceable, to his point. So if it's like a $300 contract, then like, I mean, how much can you enforce that if they don't pay it, because it's going to cost more for you to take it to court. So you just kind of have to be careful with that kind of thing.
Yep. Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for having us. This was so much knowledge, and I appreciate all of the resources that you're linking for everybody in the show notes. And where can people find you, Sean?
So I am at my company's called whatif.com. That's WHADIF. What if, the way people say it. Whatif.com.
Awesome. And Sean has lots of great resources on there too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.